Welcome to the Joy Ag Podcast. This is where strategy meets soul and healing after divorce is real. I'm your host, Dr. Lisa Summerour, author of Divorce is Not a Destination and the creator of the Professional Woman's Divorce Recovery Program, which features my proprietary ACT framework. Now, I'm doing this series right now on the loss cycle, and this is actually part 2. The first part was on shock. I'm going through one stage at a time so that you can understand what is actually happening emotionally and learn to embrace it and grow from it instead of fighting it or denying it. Now, if you listen to part 1, you already know that shock can hit you like thunder. It can have your heart racing, your breath feeling short, perspiration just popping off of your body, your mind scrambling, trying to make sense of what's actually going on. Denial is a little bit different. It can look a lot calmer and be just as disturbing as shock. In denial, your mind is saying to you, I'm just not ready to handle this yet. It may sound like this is not happening to me. There's no way this is happening to me right now. And it often shows up right after shock, okay? And it could be so close that it's almost hard to tell one has stopped and the other one has started. And your language could be very similar with shock and denial. So I don't want to get into semantics with this. Don't make it about what's coming out of your mouth because your brain may be thinking very similar thoughts going through the two things. What's different most of the time is the physiological effect. A lot of times in denial, you're not going through all of that perspiration because shock hits you and it's really reactionary. In denial, you're a little more in control, or probably a lot more in control than you were when the shock of it hit you. And so denial could have you saying things that make you sound like you've got it all together, or you're trying to convince yourself or somebody else that you're holding it all together. And I'm going to talk about that too. What you should know, denial is not delusional. Even if your friends are calling you delusional because of some of the things you're saying while you're in denial. But look at it like emotional triage, okay? It's how your brain is trying to buy time to just breathe while it's adjusting to this new reality. There is obviously a danger, I'm going to use the word danger, in staying in denial too long because denial can quietly become a comfort zone where you could just camp out. And most of these stages are not places you want to stay in indefinitely. Any of them where you're in too long could be a sign that there's something else going on and you need to get some support. There are two faces. This is how I look at denial. I look at it like there are a couple different aspects to it. I'm going to talk about two sides of denial. And the first one that I want to talk about is I think we could still fix this. I think we could still fix this. It's when you're holding on for dear life, believing that somehow you can keep this relationship that has hit the skids, you can keep this relationship or your marriage alive, okay? You may be keeping their things that they haven't taken and you don't want to get rid of them or tell them that they left them so they can come pick them up. You may be telling people that, we're just taking a little break right now, we need space. You're telling yourself, he needs time to figure this out. And once he figures it out, he's going to come back or he's going to call and we're going to work this out. There is a part of you that is clinging to this hope because the alternative feels too painful for you to be able to face right now. So instead of dealing with that, you're creating these scenarios in your mind that give you this false sense of just maybe it's not over. So you don't have to deal with the it's over part. Then the second type of denial is more of the, I'm fine. That's when you've accepted the divorce maybe intellectually, but emotionally, you have just shut down. You are staying busy. You may be overworking. You may be working a lot of overtime. You actually may be going to work knocking stuff out of the park because that is how you're overcompensating and that's how you're not dealing with what's really going on. And you might be telling people things like, I'm good. And you're doing all of these other things, this busyness, to prove to people and maybe yourself that you're handling this just fine, that you're good. Okay? Now, both of these are survival strategies. One of them is you possibly clinging on a little too tight. And the other one is you giving the appearance that you've let go, you're done, you're fine, okay? But underneath, they're doing the same thing. They're protecting you because you're not really ready to deal with the pain. And if you have to deal with the reality, the truth of it all, the pain is probably going to hit you and you're not ready for that. Now, I'm just going to tell you that I have lived through both of these. Matter of fact, I got something off my shelf because I really want you to see. If there was a crown, I would literally be wearing the crown for being the queen of, I'm fine. I got this. I'm good. You know why? Because I grew up around a bunch of really strong Black women who kept it together, held it together. And I learned early on that being fine was a survival skill. You know, we learned to hold things together. We learned to hold it together as part of our identity so we don't get caught falling apart. What do? You fix it. You pray about it. And then you do what? You move on. Now, the problem with that is that version of being fine, it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for the reality to come in.
You've built a successful career, checked all the right boxes, but after divorce, why does it feel like everything is falling apart? Searching for answers online at 2 a.m., it will not bring you peace. Neither will pretending you're fine when inside you're anything but.
I remember those feelings, the exhaustion, the anxiety, and the frustration from feeling stuck. It seemed like no matter what I did, I could not figure out a way to move past the pain. If you are dealing with a divorce while you're also managing your career, I've been there. Things didn't get better for me until I stopped waiting for time to heal me and I took control of my own healing. And that's how this came about. That's why I designed the 4 essential steps to creating joy after a difficult divorce. It's a free masterclass for accomplished women just like you who are ready to move forward.
It's time to break the cycle. Imagine waking up feeling lighter, knowing exactly what to do next and rediscovering your joy, not just surviving, but thriving. In this free masterclass, you'll learn the biggest mistakes that keep you stuck in divorce pain, why traditional recovery methods don't always work for high-achieving women, and the 4 essential steps to rebuilding your confidence and joy. Give yourself permission to stop reliving the past and start designing the future you deserve. Register today.
It doesn't leave a whole lot of room for us to really deal with the truth of what's going on. Because the truth is, I wasn't always fine, and you probably aren't either. But it took time, and in my case, several relationships that included a couple of marriages, for me to get it, you know. But I'm thankful, and I can honestly say this because that is how and why I developed the tools that I use that I now share with other women to help them learn much faster, much faster than I did. So when I tell you, I have been there, I bought the t-shirt, I drank the tea, I did all the things, I mean it. Because I had to do the work to get to a place where I didn't need to be fine, where I could just sit in my feelings without folding underneath them. And even then, there are layers to this thing. There were days when fine meant normal, and normal meant I was still in pain, but it was pain that I understood. Then there were other days where I could say, yeah, I'm not good today. I'm hurting. This is really hitting me hard today. But I know I'm going to be fine. I know I'm going to be fine. And that for me is when the healing starts. When you can get to a place where you can acknowledge, no, I'm not fine right now, but I'm going to get there. When fine stops being a performance and you recognize that it is part of the process, okay? That's when you can feel like, okay, I'm at that threshold of growth. So when we're in denial, we're usually operating from what author Tina Lifford refers to as that lowercase s. And I want to tell you about her book. Her book is called The Little Book of Big Lies. And it is one of my favorite books because of this lowercase s, uppercase S for the word self, S-E-L-F. Okay, so the lowercase s in self, that's the version of us that's reactive. That version of us is fearful, and it is typically focused on just surviving whatever it is. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. I think we all need that part of us sometimes because it's protective. Okay? The challenge with that is, though, it doesn't trust. It always thinks it has to be the protector. It's not trusting anything outside of self. It really does everything it can to stay in control instead of allowing the truth to unfold the way it should naturally. So the goal is to reconnect with yourself, capital S. That's that internal you. I think that's the you that is your intuition or your inner wisdom. And a lot of times we override it because we haven't learned to trust ourselves, right? But that capital S self, that's the part when you're living from that space, that's where you thrive, okay? That self can hold on to difficult emotions without drowning in them. It knows that you are designed to survive and thrive in your own life. How's that? And I just want to tell you one of the reasons Tina's book resonated with me. I can get up right now and walk to it on the shelf. One of the reasons her book resonated with me so deeply is because of this self concept. I did not have this language for it, but for a very long time, I acknowledged and talked about this self. And the way I would describe it to women especially is when we don't honor ourself, that inner self is looking at us going, wow, you didn't take care of me just now. I think it's the thing that causes us to disappoint ourselves. I think it's the thing that causes us to feel guilt or shame. And I'm not a big, person that heaps on guilt and shame, but I think that is where a lot of that comes from, that internal insecurity, because that self is always watching to see how we're going to navigate the world based on what our needs are. And are we providing the things that we need, or are we sacrificing self for other people's needs? You see what I'm saying? When you think of that self as being this inner you that is part of how you view the world or how you navigate the world, how are you caring for that internal you? How are you caring for your capital S self? And when you don't, I think that lowercase s jumps in like a little mini Superman cape and thinks, I'll take care of this. I'm just going to protect us because you don't know what you're doing, right? Because that uppercase S, that self, is the one who understands your worth. It understands the value that you bring to the world and to yourself. And even when your world feels upside down, when you have been feeding and nurturing that self, it allows you to sit differently. I had a girlfriend that used to say when I would do something that she goes, I'm so proud of you. She would say, you made me throw my shoulders back and stick my chest out, a little bigger. And I think that's that capital S self. So for me, when I tapped in and started listening to myself, uppercase S, and in the last episode on shock, I shared how I came about having herpes, how that happened, that whole story. I won't go into all of it here. It is in that first episode. So if you haven't watched it, when we get done with this one, go and pick up my episode and watch the episode on shock. But what I realized when my capital S self woke up and I started listening to that part of me, this is what I realized. Living with a disease was better than living with the dis-ease of being with someone I didn't trust. You get that? Living with a disease was better than living with the dis-ease of being with someone I didn't trust. And I can say that now, and it's like, oh my gosh, how come you didn't get it? I wasn't ready to get it. I was still operating from that lowercase s. So that for me was a turning point. It was a real moment of truth in me dealing with the reality and understanding I had everything I needed to deal with that. So from that space, I could feel everything without being ruled by my emotions. So there's something that I also did in the episode on shock, and I want to give it to you again here. I may have jumped the gun a little bit in that episode because if you're really dealing with shock, you may not be trying to get grounded right then because you don't even, anyway. I wanted to give it to you here again because I think it's such a great technique, and it's called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. And I'm going to talk you through what that's like and what you can do. And what I love about it is you can do it anywhere. You want to find some place to sit where you can be still and as quiet as possible. And it's 5-4-3-2-1. First thing you do, find 5 things that you can look at in the space that you're in and identify them. What's the shape? What's the color? Imagine in your head, what might it feel like to touch that thing? Or I wonder how much it weighs, whatever pops into your head. But how would you describe it if you had to describe it to somebody? Find things in that space that you can describe. Then I want you to find 4 things that you can physically touch. Okay? So it could be the chair you're sitting in, a throw, the table next to you. I had my teacup earlier. 4 things, that you can touch. And then you're going to do 3 things. Listen for 3 things, 3 sounds that you can hear. Now, I have the air conditioning on in my room, so I can hear a faint sound of that. It's on low. I can actually hear a little music from my neighbor's yard that I'm hoping my microphone is not picking up. Every now and then I hear a dog bark, but you may hear traffic depending on where you are. You may hear someone in another room talking. So 5 things you can look at, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear. Then I want you to do 2 things that you can smell. Is there a scented candle or aromatherapy in your room? Do you have on perfume or cologne that you can still smell? If you turn your head a certain way, do you have a hair product where you'll get a scent of it? But find 2 things that you can pick up a scent. And then 1 thing that you can taste. And so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 allows you to tap into all of your senses. Okay? I always ask this, when you do number 4, make yourself one of the things that you touch. And it could have been, you might have felt your shirt or your pants, but give yourself a real hug when you do number 4. I think that should be one of the things, because we could all use a good hug. And just give yourself a few minutes to sit with that. And the reason I love it is it immediately takes you out of ruminating over something that has happened in the past, and it keeps you from overwhelming yourself about things that haven't even happened yet, because it brings you right back literally to the space that you're in right now. And it tunes in each of your senses as to what's going on in that space. Okay? So give that a try. Keep that in your back pocket, because you can do it in a lot of different places. Okay? So denial can be a place where you can start calming yourself down by using a technique like that. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to do, I'm going to give you 2 more tools to help you, okay? And I didn't share these in the first one. I'm going to give them to you now. The first one is name 3 truths, okay? Name 3 things that are unquestionably, undeniably true. You want to find a quiet place. Take a nice cleansing deep breath. And just, if you need to, take 2 or 3 of them. Okay. And I want you to either say these things out loud or write them down on a piece of paper in your journal. And I still want you to say them out loud. So you're going to think of 3 things that are simple and true, preferably about your situation. Okay. They don't have to be really deep or poetic. Don't overthink it. Just come up with 3 things that are true. One could be, I'm getting a divorce. I'm getting a divorce. And this is a good one, because a lot of people go through this process and they never say those words out loud to themselves. And I think sometimes hearing things coming out of your mouth helps make it more real than you can imagine. So also be prepared for emotions that may come up as you're doing this exercise. Another thing you might say is, this relationship no longer feels emotionally safe, if that's true for you. So the truths don't necessarily have to be positive. Some of them may be truths that you have realized, but you've been denying them because maybe you didn't want anybody else to realize them, or perhaps they were so difficult to accept, and because you knew that you needed to keep living in that environment, you just didn't want to accept them, so you just weren't going to speak on it. So that could be anything from a really difficult situation to something that involved abuse of some kind. So I'm getting a divorce. This relationship is no longer emotionally safe for me. Another one could be, I am still capable of creating a beautiful life. I am still capable of creating a beautiful life. And I want you to say these things to yourself slowly. I really want you to feel what comes up, and I want you to be sincere. And you may need to say these a few times so that you can get the intonation to a place where it really is coming from a real place. And if it's difficult to do 3, start with 1. You know, the goal is for you to be honest with yourself. Denial cannot survive sustained honesty, okay? So naming your truths help you start to actually reclaim your power. How's that? The second exercise is this moment in the mirror. So I do want you to get in the mirror for this one. And I want you to actually look yourself right in the eyes. Okay? I don't want you to judge what you're seeing. Don't start picking your body apart. Don't start looking at your face, just love you right now. Look in your eyes so that you can really see yourself. And this is what I want you to say right into the mirror to yourself. This is where I am. This is what's real. And I'm still here. This is where I am. This is what's real. And I'm still here. Okay? Now, here's another one that you could do. I don't have to be fine right now. I just have to be honest. I don't have to be fine right now. I just have to be honest. So I've given you two different ones. Pick one, do both of them, however, but I want you to really look in the mirror. And if you need to go back, you can rewind this so you can write them down and save them. Put them on a Post-it note on your mirror so that you can, maybe you need to do these every morning or every night before you lay down. Okay? What I want you to do is say it in a way that is meaningful for you. I want you to say this so that you believe it, until you believe it. Okay? Or at least until you can sit with it without it overwhelming you. Okay? Because this is the beginning of you developing self-trust. And it's how you can shift from that lowercase s to that uppercase S. You can go from surviving to thriving. Okay? Denial is not your enemy. It truly is part of the process. And it is a pause that your being is taking so you have time to catch up to what's already going on around you, or what your mind may have already accepted, but emotionally you may not be there. And so denial steps in to give you some space between that, okay? So you can catch up. You just don't want to live there, okay? You don't want to get stuck there. So name what's real, name what's really true for you right now. Look yourself in the eye and give yourself permission to not be fine, at least for today. You can tell yourself, it's fine that I'm not fine right now. I'm going to get there, but I'm not there right now. I don't feel fine. So in this next episode, I'm going to be talking about that reality that lands, and then anger shows up when reality lands. And so if you have been dealing with anger, or if you're one of those people who tends to avoid anger because you think it's not ladylike or it's not professional or you weren't allowed to be angry, all of those things, any of those things, I want you to make sure you catch my next episode talking about anger as it relates to the loss cycle after a breakup or a divorce. So until next time, first, thank you for being with me this episode. Until next time, show yourself some grace, give yourself a hug, look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you. Because you've got this. You're going to be fine, and I'm going to be here to walk you through it.